I research things online for a living, so that means I spend a lot of time on Google. For me, like 80% of Americans, Google is my gateway to the entire internet. And I couldn't help but notice, Google has gotten a lot worse recently. I remember it being a lot better, and lots of other people do too, but there really is no major alternative, right? Google's become a bit inescapable. They influenced the very nature of the internet itself, and by extension, the way humanity shares information. This very video could not have been made without them. And that, of course, has made a handful of people very, very rich. And now Google is integrating something new. AI. What does the integration of artificial intelligence into most people's gateway to the internet mean for humanity? I went through old research papers, corporate governance documents, and spoke with some of the people doing the actual work to power Google's AI behind the scenes. So how do we get to the point where one product launch could alter how we access knowledge? Let's look into it the only way anyone knows how anymore. Here are 6 Google searches to tell the story of how Google stole the internet. Let's start simple. What is Google? Google is a multinational technology company whose core mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful, according to Google. So let's find out what Google really is with Ed Zitron. He's a writer, podcaster, and PR expert who's been covering the tech industry for years. What is Google?
So everyone thinks that Google is just Google search, and in many ways they're right. Everything centers around that. What Google has become is a kind of an amalgamation of what is now about 10 to 20 different companies.
We'll get back to Ed. He's got some way bigger truths to drop. But first, let's rewind to the beginning. 2. Why did we need Google? In the 90s, home and personal use of the internet took off, and people began creating web pages, documents with text and images, linked together with hypertext, forming web sites. In mid-1994, there were only 2,700 websites. By the end of that year, there were 10,000. A few months later, 650,000. People needed a way to dig through all this stuff. The first search engines started popping up, like Yahoo and Ask Jeeves. But these search engines had a problem. The results they returned were just based on if the exact phrase you searched appeared on the page and how many times. So if you searched chicken parmesan recipe, you'd get whatever page mentioned chicken parmesan recipe the most. Some actually had a human staff curating results into a directory, which became totally impossible as the internet grew.
Now that I've gotten on the internet, I'd rather be on my computer than doing just about anything.
In 1998, 2 Stanford researchers, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, published an academic paper, The Anatomy of a Large-Scale Hypertextual Web Search Engine. The paper suggests that the ideal way to find information online is not by how many times the search phrase appears on the page, but by the amount of other pages that link to it. So a search for chicken parmesan recipe would return the result that the most other sites said, check out this chicken parmesan recipe.
This paper shows that, yeah, this was not a hodgepodge thing. These were scientists. These were guys that actually genuinely wanted to do something cool.
Just 6 months after launch, a glowing newspaper article wrote, Google usually finds exactly what we're looking for, and for some mysterious reason, it tends to be within the first 5 hits.
It used to be this crazy idea where you'd type in a thing and it would come up with a result, and the result would be good. And indeed, you'd find cool things on Google. You'd find obscure blogs that Google had written. The idea of Google was that the web is too big for you to search alone, that things are disconnected, decentralized. Google centralized them, and in return, Google made an absolute arse ton of money.
So how'd they make that arse ton of money? How does Google make money?
This company really is just a giant ad monopoly, pretending to be a thing that you type stuff into that gives you answers, and used to give you better answers than it does today. But in reality, it is a large ad monopoly.
That seems a bit weird, considering a section of that original paper Brin and Page wrote, Appendix A, Advertising and Mixed Motives. It's a section outlining the problems with a search engine getting its revenue from ads.
We expect that advertising-funded search engines will be inherently biased towards the advertisers and away from the needs of the consumers.
Damn.
In retrospect,
Wouldn't that suck if someone did that?
If you can't tell from Ed's classic British sarcasm, Ed is calling out that that's exactly what Google does today. It's what they built a monopoly on. The first ever ad was for Lively Lobsters, a company that sent you live lobsters in the mail. And investors saw the promise immediately. Of the ads, not the lobsters.
We met this guy. He quickly, he took a quick look at our search engine. We started talking about, he said, I'd be interested in investing. So he went back to his car, came back with his checkbook, and he wrote us a check for $100,000.
But with those new investors also came new demands. Google investors thought the young brand needed a money guy. So
You just hired Eric Schmidt. So what's the idea behind that? You guys couldn't run it yourself?
Parental supervision, to be honest.
He was brought on to build corporate infrastructure needed to maintain Google's rapid growth. I wonder if Ed has any thoughts on rapid growth.
The only thing that grows forever is cancer. And Google kind of feels cancerous right now.
That's Ed reflecting back from 2025, but even in 2001, when Schmidt joined, Google was huge.
Google, as a verb for Googling something, was already in dictionaries and in episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Have you Googled her yet?
Willow, she's 17.
Eric Schmidt had a history of fawning over rapid growth, even to the point of monopoly, reportedly saying at a previous company, "Why isn't it the goal of each and every one of you to become so successful that someone sues us for being too dominant?" At Google, Schmidt led years of acquisitions of companies, mostly in ad tech, building an advertising juggernaut out of the search engine. So let's say you do a Google search, again for chicken parmesan recipe. You see several ads on the page, but you click on what looks like a legitimate recipe. There's ads all over that page. And guess who sells those ads?
They own the supply, as in how you buy the ads, how you sell the ads, how you get the ads places, and indeed the ads that appear on search itself.
Google, the company that makes the world's most popular internet search engine, went on sale to great fanfare today.
In 2004, Google IPO'd, their introduction to the public stock market. Google's IPO documents introduced what became their well-known slogan, "Don't be evil." Britton Page write in their founder's letter, "Google users trust our systems to help them with important decisions, medical, financial, and many others. We will live up to our don't be evil principle by keeping user trust and not accepting payment for search results." Then we saw the first sign of Google getting too big, as Eric Schmidt finally achieved his dream. Question 4, Google monopoly bad? In 2008, a potential advertising partnership with Yahoo brought about Schmidt's coveted antitrust investigation. The FTC told the companies they'd file an antitrust lawsuit if the partnership went through. Then, in 2012, the FTC investigated Google again, claiming Google was using their 70% market share, prioritizing Google products in results, and taking bits of competitors' content, like Yelp reviews, and just putting them directly into Google Maps and search. Otherwise manipulating Google tools, then considered essential to many consumers. Google's argument was that antitrust law is there to protect consumers, not competitors, so therefore they did nothing wrong. That worked, and after Google made some minor tweaks, the investigation was dropped. But was this actually all positive for consumers? Once Google had all that power, what did they do with it? Remember that algorithm from the paper earlier with the algorithm? It's changed and gotten more complicated over the years. And Google doesn't really share how it works. There's no official guide to how results are ranked. But for any business that operates online or anyone that wants to share information, being higher up on Google is vital. So, like ancient people following esoteric arcane rites to please a god for some desired outcome, web pages had to be built to please Google. It became an entire industry. Search engine optimization, or SEO.
So you have good faith SEO people go, what if we provided good information that ranked high because it's good? Wonderful, brilliant, great. That's the minority. The majority of SEO operators, search engine optimization people, are there to just get in the way. They're there to make sure that they rank high on a search.
A really easy way to understand how Google affects the internet is through recipes. You know how recipes always have a bunch of boring BS before you see the actual recipe? That's because of Google. Google prioritizes pages based on how long one spends on them. So when you're scrolling all the way down to see the damn recipe, it's because they want you to spend more time on the page. More time spent on the page meant more time spent looking at ads, which Google profits from.
That's another thing that Google could have helped with. There's 17 different pop-up ads that make your phone 200 degrees. That's how you know it's an SEO operation. Except you want to know who's serving those ads? It's fucking Google. Google AdWords. That's the thing. They don't care. In fact, the web sucking is great for them. They show you ads everywhere. You'll never find what you want.
But it's not just recipes, obviously. The entire internet is made for Google. That means that the way we exchange information, like basically as a species, has been irrevocably changed. And that's just search. Google has expanded into other products, building a full ecosystem.
6 of our consumer products, Search, Android, Maps, Chrome, YouTube, and Google Play, all have over 1 billion monthly active users each.
That's Sundar Pichai, a former McKinsey guy who took over in 2015, speaking at one of the first earnings calls of his tenure, an early sign of the decline of Google.
Google knew exactly how much they could fuck with people, and they made themselves so essential that they could make it worse very gradually.
But you're more likely to spend time using something good than something bad, right? Which brings us to our next search. Why is Google worse now? There's a lot going on here, but this is a search that sometimes brings up Ed's own reporting. You'll see it even more if you search "Who is the man who ruined Google?" or "Who ruined Google?"
So I wrote a story back in 2024 about the man that destroyed Google search.
That man was Pragabhar Raghavan, the executive in charge of ads at the time.
2019, something called a code yellow happens. Code yellow is a situation inside Google where a number ain't going up in the way they want to. And there was query weakness, which means the number of searches people were doing on Google weren't matching up so good.
Google was measuring their success based on how many searches people did. But if you're a user, using the product more isn't necessarily better. Do you like when you have to search again because the first one didn't work? Still, Raghavan demanded that queries go up, to the chagrin of some engineers, who expressed that on an email chain made public during one of Google's antitrust hearings.
In this horrible email chain, you're looking at them as Ben Gomes and Shashi speak to this other guy and go, hey look, if we change things to make queries go up, that might make Google search worse. And indeed, there is a line, and when I read this, I had to go and check I wasn't being pranked, where Ben Gomes says, I think that all Google cares about is growth.
But the changes, thought to actually just be rollbacks of previous, more positive changes, went through.
Next year, 2020, some SEO experts, they kind of see that things have got worse, that some spammier results have come in, and then some changes are made where it's even harder to see what results are ads or sponsored and real results.
Ads on Google search went from boxes on the sidebar to highlighted boxes within the search results to less obviously highlighted boxes to this one tiny little label saying ad. This isn't just Ed's theory. You can actually watch Google get worse through the amount of people complaining about it online. And there's an increase in people staying on Google after they search instead of going to a web page because Google traps them there.
They don't care about whether you're finding things.
Yeah, try again.
If you find something, you might leave Google. That's not what Google's in the business of. They're not an honest business, they're in growth.
They want to keep you there.
Raghavan may have made the call, but he's just one part of a greater problem, emphasized by the Pichai tenure, which reflects Pichai's previous job.
The CEO of Google was a McKinsey guy. McKinsey, as in consultant brain. And consultants only see growth. They don't see people, they see numbers.
It's an insistence on growth no matter what. Schmidt and Page and Brin aren't innocent here, but Pichai took everything they did and amplified it.
It is exploitative and they make money from the exploitation, but they're not sitting there like Gargamel or Dr. Claw planning. They go, fuck, how are we going to make money from these pigs? These people seem unhappy, but they're using it a lot. We need the growth. We need growth. Money mean money now. I couldn't possibly think of the consumer.
Right.
It is genuinely a detachment from society.
And now there's a new technology that's arguably a bigger detachment from society than ever before, and promises seemingly unlimited growth.
Personal AI assistant.
Developer AI tools.
AI-powered assistant.
AI-generated images. AI filmmaking.
AI enhances our lives.
I talked to some of the people behind it.
Yes.
What happens when you introduce artificial intelligence into the tool that already has monopolistic control over all information? Again, Google has become the word for search for something online, but answer me this. If you were looking for a verb for used AI, what would you use?
Stupid. Or is it? Is it cheating? Man, I don't know. I'll tell you something right now.
Google is this huge monolith, but for once it feels like they're falling behind. And that's why they're kind of forcing it on you, even though it kind of sucks. But I don't want to denigrate Gemini completely, because there's a lot of invisible labor behind it. Workers like you or I behind the scenes actually building the thing. Question number 6. Hey Gemini, are you listening? I spoke with 2 tech workers at Global Logic and its subcontractors. Global Logic is a tech labor contractor owned by the Japanese conglomerate Hitachi, which makes lots of stuff. They were hired by Google to provide workers to work on the language and answer aspects of Google's AI. Workers like screenwriter Andrew Lazan and journalist and technical writer Rachel Sawyer, who didn't feel comfortable sharing her face, but luckily Google had a solution.
I am a cog in a prompt engineering machine of just output, output, output.
If I had to describe my job in one word, I would say eerie, because you're extremely siloed. You're completely alone for all of the day.
Both are interacting with Gemini all day, then suggesting and often making changes themselves. And they're expected to work very quickly.
Yes, our productivity is always being logged. So how many minutes, down to the second that we spend in the tool. If we want to go take a bathroom break, we need to log out of the tool, fill out a form.
Which means they're also brushed in their fact-checking, testing, and editing. They're often given as little as 6 minutes for a task.
Are we putting the very best that we could out there? I don't think we are, because we're simply not given the tools to do that.
And when they don't have time, they're often asked to do what many of us do when pressed for time. Ask AI.
And if you didn't know something, they, instead of taking the time to do your own independent research, they just told us to ask Gemini, because they wanted to get as many data points in. They didn't want you spending an hour doing your own independent research to make sure to get it right. They were like, just ask Gemini, be done in 5 minutes, and move on to the next thing.
They're training the AI on the AI. Again, it's all about speed. And while Google may not have the name recognition in AI of ChatGPT, they do have another advantage. Everybody already uses them every day.
Today, all of our 2 billion user products use Gemini.
2 billion people worldwide use at least one Google product, and they just tossed AI in there. It's everywhere. Even here, watching me. Google is exponentially exploding the problems that broke the little search engine that these 2 little dorks invented, and feeding it to 2 billion of us.
If I made something so beautiful as Google search and I fucked it up that way, I would hope my children kill me. Not that I have multiple children, but I would hope they would be run out of town with pitchforks, because if you make something beautiful and you share it with everyone and you make it worse so that you can make a quick buck, you are a scumbag.
Yeah.
You are a cretin. You are a monster, honestly. Burning the Library of Alexandria to feel warm. It's disgraceful. Nothing can grow forever. Nothing. Unless you make it worse like this.
And they already have access to all of the information online because it was created to please them. So now when you search chicken parmesan, you get a recipe based on a combination of different methods. Recipes pulled and stolen from the recipes we talked about earlier. The people who were making a living off of it. Google made their tool an essential way to find information. Then made people create web pages in a certain way to rank higher. then took control of most online advertising, one of the only ways to make money putting information online, put ads on everything, which made websites worse, then made it so people don't have to click on websites at all. So what do we do? Well, the government is trying to help. 2 new antitrust investigations were opened by the FTC, saying that Google had monopolized search and advertising. And it was determined that they had. Now the judge responsible is working on remedies. That's the antitrust version of sentencing.
They're talking about selling Chrome. They're talking about Google having to share their search data with other people, with other companies, other search engines. And they're just talking about breaking the whole damn thing up, which I think would be both very funny and a lot better for the web.
But what can you do? Ed has an idea.
This sounds dumb, but more people talking about it and saying Sundar Pichai, saying Prabhakar Raghavan, and this man had no SEO before me. Now all his SEO is just people talking about the article, which is so funny because you know what, someone like that, you can never take their riches or their power, but you can take their name.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is a powerful thing.
These men don't have our best interest in mind. I wonder if there's any kind of stigma at all attached to exploiting people, bringing that stigma back, making sure that we don't lionize these disruptors who are taking away the middle class and making us give up our power through these weird myths that these titans of industry have our best interest in mind.
I think it becomes a class issue immediately because a free platform that is poorly kept means that the majority of people who do not have a ton of money will be given poorer information and be more open to manipulation.
The internet was formed by Google because with a little bit of good tech, massive growth, and the power of capital, they were able to seize control of the basic operation of it all. But what happens when the good tech is gone? Now, it's just a tool for funneling money to wealthy executives and investors. Don't let them tell you otherwise. They are monopolists just like the barons before them, and they need to be treated like it. Thank you so much for watching, and if there's a story in tech that's making you nervous for the future of humanity or anything that's already affected you or your community, let us know in the comments or reach out to stories@perfectunion.us. Thanks again, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.